as I was perusing through YouTube for some books on geography, there wasn't really any that were of substantial need or of interest to myself. So I figured I'd do my own list of top 10 geography books that I've read as of late that I find interesting and hopefully interesting to you. So I would say that first one would be Tropic of Chaos by Christian Parenti, which basically he breaks down this concept of the catastrophic convergence of violence, neoliberal economic policies, and climate change. So that's a really good book. Anybody interested in global political ecology would really find that book fascinating. Another one I would have to say is, to me, a classic is Planet of Slums by Mike Davis. I mean, this dude is just a genius. Enough said about that book. You just got to read that one. Down and Delirious in Mexico City by this fairly new author named Daniela Hernandez. He's a pretty interesting guy. Went out to Mexico City, wrote this book while he was living out there. It's really interesting, you know, nothing theoretical or nothing like that. Just a really fun, you know, interesting book. Another one I would have to say is The Devil's Highway by Luis Alberto Urrea. That's another really good book about the border. Anybody who has all these crazy suppositions about what the border means and you know, all these ideas about immigrants and whoop-de-whoop, like, you definitely need to read that book. It'll change your life. And if it doesn't, just kill yourself, like I've said before. My fifth one I'm going to say is Pirates of the Caribbean. The Axis of Hope by Tariq Ali, which is basically about, you know, the whole neo-Bolivarian revolution that's going on in Latin America, and kind of like a book to kind of clean up all the misperceptions that are going on in terms of Hugo Chavez, Evo Morales, the new guy from Correa from Ecuador. It's another good book. You should definitely, anybody interested in learning about Latin America, what's going on over there with the post-neoliberal era. Another one I was just finished reading was Hollow Land by E.L. Wiseman, which is basically kind of Israel's architecture of occupation in terms of how they subjugate Palestinian land from a three-dimensional sphere. And it's highly theoretical, but it's definitely a good book to read it if you're trying to understand what it means to essentially how do people get divided, how do they become part of this process of apartheid. That'd be an interesting book to read as well. Another one I would suggest is Gone Tomorrow by it's about Gone Tomorrow. It's about the hidden life of garbage, which is a book by Heather Rogers. And that one is just really just about our consumption and just kind of like the history of garbage. How do we define garbage? What happens to it? Landfills, like pretty much like the whole history of it, like the politics behind it, the economics behind it, how neoliberal, you know, changes have really influenced the amount of garbage in our consumption. It's a book, if you want to be conscious, it's definitely a good book to help you out in terms of how much we waste. Another one is Instant City, Life and Death in Karachi by Steve Inskeep, which is basically about, you know, the explosion of this city of Pakistan. It's a really interesting book, you know. It's just all kinds of stuff from international aid to the food to, you know, terrorism, whatever. It's a whole thing about Pakistan, how it became a nation, and how that city's like a kind of a byproduct of this explosive immigration to that country. Another one is Nasser by Saeed Abu Rish, which is basically a book about, you know, the essentially like the godfather of Arab nationalism and the Egyptian leader. It's a really interesting autobiography, or not autobiography, but biography of him. It's a really interesting book. Another one is one of my favorites too. That's also you know, been a significant contribution to the way I look at things now is My Father Was a Freedom Fighter by Ramzi Baroud. He's a Palestinian guy. He wrote this book about it, like the life in Gaza, and it was just a really interesting book. I mean, damn, that book was crazy. Like, I was sad. I remember one time I was actually reading that book when, you know, I had to hit the toilet, so I was like, I'm gonna go read my book because, you know, I love to read, and so that's a good space for me to go and concentrate. So I hit the toilet, and you know, I was reading one of the sections, and his mom died. That shit got me pissed. But anyways, that's another good book. My top 10 list. If I get enough views on this, then I guess I'll post up another one. But that's it for now. Thank you.